being a fan isn't always easy. There's the ups and downs, sometimes your team looks great, and other times it's like a dumpster fire. Some fans have been blessed, while others not so much. So get your keyboards ready and head down to that comment section, cause it's about to get real. Yeah, I'm talking to you, keyboard warriors. Ranking was done by playoff berths, cups, extenuating circumstances. Okay, you're probably just ready for the video by now. Number 10. Edmonton Oilers. Before you say, but Alyssa, they have 5 Stanley Cups, so why are they even here? Just hear me out. Yes, they have had their glory days with heroes like Gretzky and Messier winning cups left and right, but those days have been long gone, since the year I was born. They do have some great talent though, arguably the best in the world with McDavid and his sidekick Draisaitl, and really that's why they're on this list, because for a few years now, the fans have been stuck watching their star talent waste away, under poor management and a mediocre roster outside of a few players. They did make the playoffs though in the 2016-17 season and went to the second round, so that's something, but that was the first berth in a decade, so things haven't always been sunshine and rainbows if you're a fan in oil country. Don't hang those heads too low though. Maybe McJesus will eventually get the talent he needs alongside him, and other than just Leon. And also some added defense, then Edmonton will be a real contender. Number 9. Philadelphia Flyers. It's always sunny in Philadelphia. Okay, maybe if you're an Eagles fan or even a 76ers fan, because at least these teams have championships to brag about, more recent than 1975's. Okay, maybe that was a little harsh, but at the same time, things haven't always been easy. If Gritty is your team's mascot, just scary. Anyways, back in their Broad Street Bully days, these guys were the team to beat, as the 70s were their decade, and where they won 2 cups. But since then, it's been heartbreak after heartbreak, close but no cigar for Flyers fans as their teams lost in their last 5 trips to the Stanley Cup Finals. And it doesn't make it any better that they've been forced to sit back and watch their interstate rival win 5 championships during the drought. There are some bright spots though, as they've made the postseason more often than not since '95, and they've got some young talent in Carter Hart, Travis Konechny, and Nolan Patrick that make the future seem a little more brighter. Number 8. Minnesota Wild. Being a fan in Minnesota can be tough, especially when you have to watch your team get moved and then win the cup in Dallas. Later on, when you finally get a team again, it struggles to make a dent in the postseason while getting frequently knocked out in the first round. While it's hard watching your team lose, the Wild have made the postseason 6 seasons in a row, so at least they're making it. I know a lot of teams that can't say the same, but when you haven't made it past the second round in over 15 years, well, it tends to get a little old. Even still, the club is currently leaning towards a rebuild, so maybe we'll see a much improved team in the Twin Cities before long. Number 7. Columbus Blue Jackets. Since coming into the league at the start of the new millennium, the Jackets haven't had much to show for it, as they are the only team currently that hasn't won a postseason game in regulation. And maybe they would have elected to stay in the West given the choice, as well, that's where they managed to get out of the first round. Other than that, they've struggled to beat the offensive juggernauts in Washington and Pittsburgh. Things haven't been completely terrible lately though, as they've managed to make the playoffs in 3 of the last 5 seasons. And for Columbus, that's pretty good. Other than that, fans have been waiting patiently for them to make it past the second round and not get swept. Number 6. Vancouver Canucks. Let's just think of the Nucks as the Flyers of the West, minus the Cups. It's been tough in Vancouver since their inception, really. I mean, yeah, they've had some real talent in the Sedins for years, but unfortunately, they still fell short in the postseason. Whether it's from bad calls, as many Vancouver fans may say, or just bad luck, fans have had to watch their team disappoint 3 times in the Stanley Cup Finals, and they haven't been past the first round since. Now, that's not to say that they don't have superstar talent on the roster right now, as they recently acquired Swedish stud Elias Pettersson, who's going to win the Calder, not a big deal. They also have quality young talent in Brock Besser and Bo Horvat, who have yet to reach their primes. Number 5. Florida Panthers. If you're a Panthers fan, things have sucked a lot. Yeah, the club did make the finals once, but that was over 2 decades ago, and since then, they've barely had a sniff. Instead, they've been sitting sidelined more often than not, watching their rival Tampa Bay win a cup and make consecutive postseason runs. Turn that frown upside down, Florida fans, as this surely won't last forever. With a core centered around Jonathan Huberdeau, Aaron Ekblad, and Alexander Barkov, the future is still bright in the Sunshine State. Upgrade between the pipes within the next few seasons and you'll be good to go. That means you, Bobrovsky, you've been summoned. Number 4. Toronto Maple Leafs. Many of you may be clueless as to why the Leafs are even here. If you look at them today, they've been the pick from the start of the season to win the Cup, and I can see why. They're stacked offensively. Recently, they got a high-caliber D-man in Muzzin, and they have arguably the best coach in the league. So, why are they here? Well, if you're a Leafs fan, you know as well as I do that they haven't won a cup since the Beatles were a thing. Let's try 1967, and that's half of a century. So if you're around when the Leafs last won it all, then kudos to you, because it's been one heck of a ride. And to make it even worse, Toronto hasn't won a playoff series since 2004. I know, those big bad Bruins are the worst, aren't they? But it can't stay like this for long. With players like Matthews, Marner, Tavares, Nylander, I could go on, but you get the picture. Number 3. Arizona Coyotes. Well, I could try to sugarcoat this, but I'm just going to be real here. The team has been bad, like really bad. But it's not all their fault, really, as many would argue that the market conditions, arena issues, and location have put a real damper on the club's success thus far. Oh yeah, and that whole gambling scandal didn't help either. They have gotten farther than some teams still, though, in the postseason, as they were able to advance to the Western Conference Finals in 2012. Sadly, though, fans haven't seen a playoff berth since, and probably won't this year either. The Yotes do have a future star in Clayton Keller, though, who not only broke Phil Kessel's record on the U.S. team for points, but also was part of the 2017 World Junior team that won gold. With Ekman Larson locked up and Alex Galchenyuk now on the team, it has to get better instead of worse, right? Number 2. Buffalo Sabres. For much of their existence, sadly this team has been the butt end of many jokes from around the league, as their last trip to the Stanley Cup Finals will be 20 years ago this spring. They have had many great players to come and go throughout the years though, including Dominic Hasek, Evander Kane, and Ryan Miller, that have all been core players more recently for the franchise. But if you're a Sabres fan, you've definitely been frustrated as their number of postseason appearances since 2001 have been dismal at best, as they've made the playoffs only 4 times in the last 18 years. Things have been looking up a lot for the club though this season, as they acquired Rasmus Dahlin and Jeff Skinner. Both have been key reasons why they were able to sport a winning record for the first time in over half a decade. And of course Jack Eichel, can't forget that guy. Number 1. St. Louis Blues. Things have been pretty blue in St. Louis for a while now, as the team hasn't won a cup since their formation in 1967. They did make the finals in their first few seasons though, which was pretty amazing, only to get swept though each time. And sadly, in St. Louis, the finals are like a blur, as they haven't made it back since 1970. They do usually make the playoffs though, and even made the Western Conference Finals in 2016. Also, their 25-year playoff streak from 1980 to 2004 is tied for the 3rd longest in NHL history, so that's something. Hopefully, the playoff drought won't be for too much longer, as their roster was immensely improved by the start of this season, and they even were amongst Stanley Cup favorites going in. Figure out the Jake Allen situation by the deadline, and this team will be good to go.